In May 2022, Sony made her the official co-host of Jeopardy alongside Ken Jennings. To the public, it looked like a perfect compromise, but behind closed doors, the arrangement was fragile. Executives wanted two things at once: the nostalgia and trivia credibility of Ken and the celebrity prestige of Mayim. What they didn't expect was how divided the fanbase would become. Viewers split into camps almost immediately. Social media erupted with thousands of posts every night. Some said Mayim brought warmth and humanity that felt refreshing. Others argued she interrupted contestants too much, or that her pace felt slower than Trebek's classic style. What started as mild criticism slowly grew into obsessive commentary. People judged her voice, her clothes, even her facial expressions. Sony monitored everything. Every rating dip, every comment thread, every YouTube clip. Mayim didn't know it then, but executives were already asking a dangerous question. Is she hurting the brand? Dawn. In late 2022, Mayim walked into a meeting expecting a routine planning session. Instead, she found a room filled with tension. Sony executives slid graphs across the table. They showed audience surveys, demographic charts, and week-by-week viewership comparisons between her episodes and Ken's. The numbers weren't disastrous, but they weren't equal either. Her episodes were averaging slightly lower retention in older audiences, the ones most loyal to Jeopardy. She left the meeting shaken. She had built her career by being both an actress and a scientist, someone who could connect with people intellectually and emotionally. But here she was, being reduced to hard numbers on a spreadsheet. The pressure kept rising. During one December filming week, a contestant complained that her pace forced them to rush their answers. The moment was minor, barely a few seconds on stage. But producers pulled her aside afterward and told her not to let it happen again. She apologized, but something inside her began to crack. She felt she was being judged against a ghost, Alex Trebek, a man she deeply respected but could never replicate. Throughout 2023, Sony made quiet changes without announcing anything publicly. Ken began getting more high-profile tournaments. Mayim received more regular season episodes. It was their way of testing audience behavior without telling either host what they were really measuring. Then came the moment that changed everything in late 2023. The Hollywood strikes hit the entertainment world. Writers, actors, and crew members demanded fair treatment, better pay, and protections from technology. Jeopardy, unlike other shows, could technically continue filming without violating the strike, but only if they used old clues, recycled material, and avoided union contracts. Mayim refused. She believed the writers were the backbone of the show. Kay had spent her entire life watching unions fight for fairness. She remembered her father's small business fail. She remembered being a child actor pushed too hard, remembered the bias she faced in academia. She knew what it felt like to have power working against you, so she did something that shocked Sony. She walked off the set. She didn't shout. She didn't fight. She simply told producers that she could not ethically continue hosting while writers were striking. She believed she was doing the right thing. Sony did not. Within weeks, the ripple effects reached her agents. Producers sent cold emails. Executives stopped updating her schedule. Meetings were postponed indefinitely. A silent wall formed between her and the show she had fought so hard to represent. By December 2023, Sony had already begun moving forward without her. In 2024, while the public still assumed she was just on break, she received a call from her representative. The message was blunt. Sony would not be bringing her back. Ken Jennings would continue as the sole host. She asked why. Her rep took a long breath before answering. Sony believes your decision to step away during the strike created instability for the brand. They're worried about long-term viewer trust. In other words, she tried to stand up for the writers, and it cost her the job. Mayim lost her Jeopardy salary, an estimated $2 million in future earnings, and a role she believed she had earned with her whole heart. She stayed silent. For a year, she didn't comment, didn't blame, didn't fight back. She thought speaking out would make things worse, but silence has its limits. In early 2025, during a small podcast interview, she finally told the truth. She admitted she wasn't fired for performance or ratings or fan commentary. She said plainly, "I wasn't willing to cross a line. And the moment I chose ethics over convenience, I became replaceable." Her words spread across the internet within hours. Fans who once criticized her suddenly saw the story from a different angle. People realized she didn't lose Jeopardy because she wasn't good enough. She lost it because she took a stand in an industry where obedience matters more than principle. Hollywood thrives on silence. Mayim broke that silence, and what she revealed wasn't just about a game show, it was about how power works. how punishment is disguised as business decisions, and how even the smartest, kindest, most accomplished people can be pushed aside the moment they become inconvenient. Mayim Bialik didn't lose Jeopardy. She lost a battle for integrity in a place that rewards compliance. But for the first time in years, she walked away with exactly what she always valued most: your voice. Sony made her decision clear in May 2022. Ken Jennings would take over more episodes, and Mayim would rotate in only 4 specials and tournaments. On paper, it was shared hosting. Behind the scenes, it was a warning. Executives were already questioning whether her style matched the legacy of Jeopardy. Still, she stayed professional. She smiled through interviews, thanked producers, praised contestants, and insisted she loved the job, but internally she felt the walls closing in. She had spent years proving she was more than a child star, more than Amy Farrah Fowler, more than Hollywood gossip. Hosting Jeopardy felt like finally standing on a stage built for her mind. Losing it even slowly terrified her in early 2023. Everything changed. The Writers Guild of America announced a strike. Most game shows kept running. The networks pushed on. Sony expected the same from Jeopardy. Contestants were ready. Studios were booked. Money was on the line, but morally, Mayim couldn't do it. On May 16, 2023, she walked into her dressing room on the Jeopardy lot. Makeup artists waited. Producers paced. Contestants rehearsed in the hallway. She sat quietly at her mirror, staring at her reflection. Weighing a choice that would define her future, she stood up, walked out, and told Sony she would not cross the picket line. Cameras froze. Producers panicked. Contestants whispered. Someone in the control room said, "Is she serious?" She was. When she walked off set that day, she believed she was doing the right thing. She assumed they would admire her solidarity with writers. They did not. Executives saw her decision as disloyal, disruptive, and expensive. Nearly $1 million in production costs were lost that week. Quietly, emails began circulating. Meetings were held without her name on the schedule. At the end of the month, Sony had already begun shifting all regular hosting to Ken. No warnings, no conversations, no explanations, just a slow, silent removal. For months. She kept working on special episodes, hoping she could repair the relationship. She stayed respectful in interviews. She avoided controversy. She refused to talk about the strike. Her team begged Sony for clarity. None came. Then came December 15, 2023, the message was short, cold, corporate. Jeopardy was moving in a different direction. Her services were no longer needed. Her contract was terminated. No goodbye episode. No tribute, not even a thank you for helping keep the show alive after Alex Trebek. She had lost Jeopardy. She had lost $2 million in future earnings, and she had lost the one Hollywood job she thought would finally be safe. For more than a year. She stayed silent. People speculated. Tabloids blamed her attitude. Commentators blamed her hosting delivery. Some fans said Sony preferred Ken because he was a champion. Others said she was too political, too sensitive, too academic, too slow, or too motherly. She heard every rumor and addressed none of them until 22/5 in a podcast episode that went viral within hours. She finally told the truth. Not the polished PR version. Not the gentle talk show version. The real version, she said. I didn't get fired because of ratings. I didn't get fired because of delivery. I got fired because I supported the writers when I wasn't supposed to. Suddenly, the internet exploded. Clips spread everywhere. Fans were stunned. Critics apologized. Former contestants came forward saying Sony had been pushing to streamline the hosting job long before the strike, and Mayim, refusing to film, had given them an easy excuse. For the first time, people started asking the real question: why was solidarity punished? Why was morality treated like betrayal? Why did one of the smartest women in Hollywood lose her job for taking a stand most people agreed with? Her admission didn't just expose Jeopardy, it exposed Hollywood, a system where loyalty matters only until money enters the room, a system where silence is rewarded, a system where taking a moral stand can destroy a career overnight. The truth is simple and brutal. Mayim Bialik didn't lose Jeopardy. Jeopardy lost Mayim Bialik, and when she finally spoke in 2025, her words echoed far beyond game shows. They became a warning for every actor, host, and celebrity navigating a town where doing the right thing can be the most dangerous decision of all. The cameras cut to a wide shot of the arena, lights fading into darkness. Tyson's silhouette moved like a shadow stitched together by rage, memory, and muscle memory. And for a moment, the world forgot he was 58. For a moment, he was the same Iron Mike who terrified entire divisions. But behind the scenes, something else was happening. Reporters later revealed that Tyson had been arguing with a former associate, someone who had been trying to drag him into an old business deal he thought he had escaped years ago. The man followed him from the hotel lobby, shouting, poking, taunting. Security footage showed the man stepping into Tyson's path, blocking him, refusing to move. Witnesses said Tyson kept saying, "Walk away. Mike, walk away," like he was talking to himself. But then, the man said one sentence that broke him. It was about Cos D'Amato, and that's when Tyson snapped. The punches came fast. Too fast for a 58-year-old. Too fast for security. Too fast for a man who had spent decades rebuilding himself from the inside out. Tyson's lawyer later said it wasn't a meltdown, it was a trauma response. But the internet didn't care about trauma. The internet wanted headlines. Within minutes, hashtags exploded. Hashtag Tyson arrested, #Iron Mike breakdown. Tag Tyson vs himself. Millions watched the 12-second clip without knowing what led up to it. But the truth? Tyson had been unraveling for months after the Jake Paul fight. Tyson's medical team had quietly advised him to take a long break. They saw the signs: short-term memory lapses, sudden bursts of aggression, long silences where he seemed to drift out of the room entirely. He would start a sentence and forget where it was going. He would lose track of conversations halfway through. They feared something worse was happening beneath the surface. But Tyson refused to slow down. He was building an empire. His podcast was blowing up. His cannabis brand was making millions. His personal appearances were fully booked. People weren't paying to see a young fighter. They were paying to see a legend who survived everything, from prison to bankruptcy to the darkest corners of his own mind. But deep down, Tyson knew something was wrong, he told a friend. "Just weeks before the hotel incident, I feel like the old me is trying to come back. And I'm scared of him." It wasn't a metaphor, it was a warning. And then came the moment that sent shockwaves through Hollywood. A leaked voicemail, Tyson's voice, shaking, sent to one of his closest friends. In it, Tyson said, "I don't know who I'm becoming. I feel like I'm fighting someone I can't see." Doctors later said it sounded like early cognitive decline. Fans said it sounded like fear, but to Tyson's inner circle, it sounded like the man they had all prayed would never return. When Tyson was arrested outside the Las Vegas hotel, the world assumed it was another celebrity meltdown. But behind bars, Tyson wasn't talking. He kept staring at the wall, whispering to himself, "Cos wouldn't want this. Coos wouldn't want this." Hours later, he broke down and cried. The last time Tyson cried in a police station was the night he realized his career was collapsing in the 1990 South. History was repeating itself, but then the real twist came. Tyson was released without charges. The man he attacked refused to cooperate. And when he walked out of the station, the media expected him to hide his face. Instead, Tyson walked with his head high. He told reporters, "I'm not proud of what happened. But I'm not hiding from it. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm still fighting." But the fight was no longer against opponents in the ring. It was against the one enemy that terrified him the most, himself. 3 weeks later, a secret meeting. What the public didn't know was that Tyson entered an undisclosed clinic in California. Not rehab, not anger management. Something specialized designed for athletes dealing with neurological decline, chronic trauma, and post-career identity disorder. Only 6 athletes in the world had ever been treated there, doctors told Tyson something he had always feared. "Your brain has taken more damage than any fighter your age." They talked about micro tears, trauma pathways, long-term impact from thousands of blows, fights, accidents. They warned him that if he didn't slow down, there might come a day when he couldn't remember the very things he fought for. Tyson stared at the table and whispered, "Without my mind, what am I?" His entire life, his fists were his weapon. But now, his greatest battle was inside his head. The clinic recommended he step away from public life for 6 months, but Tyson refused. He said, "If I stop moving, I'll die." But he didn't mean physically, he meant mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Tyson's biggest addiction was not fame, not women, not fighting. It was momentum. He needed to keep going. He needed to keep working. He needed to keep evolving. Because if he stopped long enough to face everything he'd been running from, his past, his losses, his guilt, his failures, he feared it would destroy him. The panel of specialists was Divided, half believed Tyson had to retire completely from anything. High stress, the other half believed he could still function if he learned to control the rage response that had followed him from childhood, one doctor said. Mike has two versions inside him: the man he's become, and the boy who never healed, that boy scared angry. Abandoned was the one who came out at the hotel. The turning point: Tyson left the clinic with a private plan, a combination of neurological therapy, emotional training, and something he'd never tried before: forgiving himself. His team said Tyson's real problem wasn't his brain, it was the weight he had carried for 40 years, the guilt of hurting people, the regret of losing people, the shame of becoming the monster the world said he was. But something changed after that night. Tyson started turning down events. He reduced his travel. He stopped accepting risky promotions. Even his podcast episodes became calmer, more reflective, less explosive for the first time in decades. Tyson was choosing peace. Final scene: Tyson alone in the gym late at night. Inside his private training facility, Tyson shadowboxed slowly, almost softly. No speed, no power. Just movement. His reflection in the mirror didn't show iron. Mike the Savage knockout artist. It showed a man who had survived. He said quietly, "I'm not the baddest man on the planet anymore. I'm just a man trying to be better than the man I was yesterday." For the first time, the world saw Mike Tyson not as a fighter, but as a human being,